Hey, shalom guys. I've got a really important topic to discuss today to give people some insight on what does God mean, okay? So we hear this term in our society most prevalently when it comes to referring to our Maker. And so there's other terms as well, like we have gods and we have goddesses. So I wanted to break down what the pictographs are for this term that we see in our society and where it comes from, and hopefully give people insight on why we use this term in our society. So to start off with, God is compiled of two different pictographs. It's Gimel and Dalet. Gimel has to do with our foot, and spreading messages has to do with our walk, and Dalet has to do with the door, as I've spoken about in several videos. If we're entering the door of Yahshua, that means we're entering the correct door. But there's also the door to the enemy, and I've explained that in other videos as well. But compiled of these two terms here, these two pictographs, we have a message or a messenger entering a door. So there's two different sides to these pictographs, just as there always is to every pictograph. We have someone spreading a message in a positive way, where they are knocking on the doors and asking to be invited into their home. And that's what Yahshua does. That's what his ministry was about. He said, go and make taught ones of all the nations, the peoples. And he said to spread the message of the good news, which interestingly, the word good in our English language is the same pictographs. So with being a messenger, you can spread the good news or you can spread the bad news, depending on which side of the pictographs you fall on. So we have the tribe of God, or some people like to say Gad, but you wouldn't pronounce it that way in the Hebraic language. So A's are always Ah, okay? And so we have messengers who are either spreading the good news or the bad news. And next I want to go to the beginning of our Bibles in Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. And it says, in the beginning, and typically people see God in their Bibles. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. But under that Strong's number, which I'll be sharing, the term that was originally used was El, or Elohim, okay? And it is compiled of two different pictographs. Elohim is short for El, and that is compiled of Aleph, the ox, and Lamed, which we've spoken much on, and that Lamed is a staff. It means to be the strong ox, the one that leads and guides and that you're yoked to, okay? So in the beginning, Elohim created the heavens and the earth, but we typically see God in there. So why do we see that in there? Because if you look in your scriptures, and I'm going to be sharing other examples of these words that we're using in our society, the Father's name is not God. But God does mean to be a messenger that spreads either the good or the bad news, which has to do with the tribe of God. They, on the positive side or the negative side, they either spread the good news or the bad news. And that's specific for that tribe. But as a people in general, we either spread good news or we spread bad news in our lives. We all have the character to do that within us. So next, I want to explain right here. I'm going to skip down to this part. We have what we see in our Bibles as Lord. All right, Lord actually equals Baal. So when you hear the term Baal in your scriptures, or some people say Baal, which is from the English term, but if you're saying it in Hebrew, it's Baal. And that is compiled of two different pictographs. It's Beit, Lamed. We have the house and again the staff. So when you are, for example, we're going to be celebrating Sukkot here pretty soon. And when you pitch your tent, you have poles in your tent. Okay? This year we got us a yurt. And thanks to my beautiful sister Talitha, she found us an amazing deal where we were able to get a hexagon-shaped yurt. And as we were setting it up and getting it seasoned, we had to put a pole that's about this thick, very heavy-duty tent. It was actually a 90-pound tent, and I'm so grateful that we ended up getting this. But while we were putting it up, we had to put a pole right in the middle of the tent. And it was that pole that held our tent up. If we didn't have that pole, it would just fall to the ground. So with this example, when we pitch our tent with Elohim, our maker, that means that we are standing, our houses, our temples, are standing upon the staff, the Lamed of Yahweh. But if we are pitching our tent with the wrong Elohim, the wrong staff, then we are pitching our tent with the enemy. So it's all about who we trust, what we put our faith in, okay? And so look this up. Lord actually means Baal. And I wanted to read something here real quick. In Jeremiah chapter 23, I'm not going to read too much in context. You guys can look this up for yourselves, for those that aren't familiar with the scripture. Jeremiah 23, starting in verse 26, it reads, "Till when shall it be in the heart of the prophets of falsehood, and prophets of the deceit of their own heart, who try to make my people forget my name by their dreams, which everyone relates to his neighbor, as their fathers forgot my name for Baal." So people don't realize this, but our scriptures, they came from these pictographs. And when they were transliterated, the Father's name was removed from the scriptures over 7,000 times. Let me repeat that. His name was removed. But if you dig into the Strong's numbers and go below the surface reading, you will find, it's not hard, but you'll find these terms and the Strong's numbers associated with them that reveal the truth. So the Father's name has been removed from our scriptures over 7,000 times. All right, next I want to go into God. This term is short for Gariel. And I've said that in several of my videos, and I'm going to explain what Gariel comes from and what it means. So I'm going to be sharing a link to a gentleman who really helped me understand in the beginning what all of these pictographs are and how they were broken down and all that. And so the gentleman's name is Alan Horvath, and he explains where the term Gabriel comes from. So Gabriel is the messenger that deceived Hawa or Eve in the garden. And this is what happened in the beginning when our scriptures were written. They were written by men that were deceived. And Gabriel had his name, his character, because he was named by our Creator to be a messenger that guarded the Garden of Eden. But he decided to not protect the garden. And he decided to spread the bad message and be the bad side of his name, bad character of his name. So Gabriel is Satan's name. Satan, however you want to refer to him, is actually Satan's name. Now, if you look up in the book of Hanuk or Enoch, in chapter 69, verse 6, it will tell you that he was the messenger that deceived Hawa in the garden. And then it lists all the other ones, all the other messengers that came along with him, their names as well. And they all have good meanings to their names as well as bad meanings. Because you have to recognize that Yahweh created Gabriel and all living beings, all of his creation. So he's the one who named them these names. So they have positive and negative meanings, okay? So the interesting thing is when I looked this up, I wasn't exactly sure where it was in the book of Hanuk. So I looked it up today before doing this video. And if you take 69, verse 6, and you take the 9 and you flip it upside down, it's a 6. So we have Enoch chapter 69 verse 6, and if you take that 9 and flip it upside down, it becomes a 6. 666. You can't make this stuff up. A 9 flipped upside down is a 6. So I was kind of blown away by that when I saw it. So we'll replace it so it doesn't confuse anyone. So Enoch 69 verse 6. Oops, that was a really terrible 9. All right, let's try to do that again. Okay. There we go. Look it up for yourself, okay? And next I wanted to transition over to our money. I'm going to put this up here. This won't be a surprise for many. So we'll get right up, okay? So if you see in the middle of our money, it says, "In God we trust." Okay, and then you've got the all-seeing eye, you got the pyramid, lots of symbolism in our money. So the world that we live in, and here in America specifically, all of our money, from our dollars to our coins, have that engraved in them. People make money their God. They worship it. They put their trust in it. I know this because for many years I had a fear of money, and I put my trust in it to provide for me. If I lacked in money, or money wasn't spent the way I thought it needed to be spent, I would literally just lose all peace, shalom within my being. And I would let it just eat me up to where I was miserable for years. And I recognized that was a major stronghold for me, because I was not putting my trust in Yahweh, but rather I was putting my trust in the world that was offered to Yahshua when he went up upon the mountain. See, what people don't recognize is when Gadriel took Yeshua up upon the mountain, he said, I will give you all this if you bow down and worship me. Well, what was all this? What I've been caused to understand is he was offering him the world and everything that was in the world. And in the world that we live in, people are always offering prosperity and abundance. They're offering more wealth. But Yahshua said, you shall serve Yahweh and Yahweh alone shall you worship. And we put our trust in the things of this world. We gather our treasures from the things of this world. Where our trust is where our hearts are. And I didn't realize that I was putting my trust in Gadriel and the system that he has set up for thousands of years. So next, I wanted to show people something very interesting. Abba Yahweh showed me this last year, and it really was just a wow moment. So if you know when America was founded, most people know that we became the United States in the year 1776. And last year, when I was looking this up, I typed in the Strong's number H1776 into my app, and it broke down different Strong's numbers. And after I went to these Strong's numbers, we have 1776 led me to H1769, then to H1410, and then to H1464. And as I followed the breadcrumbs, it brought me to the Strong's number for God, and I'll show that on here as well. And it showed that God is what people put their trust in. They are putting their trust in Gadriel, who offers them prosperity and abundance and freedom. But nowadays, our freedoms are being ripped from us in various ways and forms, to where people are not putting their trust in Abba Father Yahweh and his kingdom, which is not here on earth. They are putting their trust in the God of this world, who spreads bad messages and makes people put trust in him and the world that he has set up for people. So next, I wanted to go to what the Father showed me when it came to how battles are demonstrated when it comes to God or Gadriel. So when you're taking over a country, for example, America, most people don't know that when the troops came over here, they literally drove the people out that were here. They drove them out. And what does an army do when they drive people out? They march with their gimmels. They march. They march in. They don't knock on the door. They march into that city. They run on the wall. They deliver a message that is not peaceful. They deliver a message that says, get the heck out of here or you're going to die. Or they just go in and they just annihilate the city. So they marched into the cities with their gimels and they kicked down the door. There is nothing new under the sun, under the kuf. God Riel has been using man to deliver a message to conquer nations and to knock down the door since the beginning of time. This is what has happened. Yeshua, he said to go door to door and knock on the door. And if they receive you, then you shall go into that home. But if they do not receive you, you wipe your feet off, your gimels off, and you go to the next place. That was a major light bulb that went off inside of me when I realized that God Riel chose the character to go in and conquer nations by having man deliver bad messages and take down the doors of people by killing and murdering them. One thing I do want to explain is I know people use God for our Creator. It is not his name, but he is a messenger. He has used his children to spread the good message. And so, even though this isn't his name, it does describe his character where he is wanting his children to spread the good news to the people. But his name is Yahweh. And I'm going to be doing a second video that is completely focused on our Creator's name and why I use that name and how that applies to his creation. And so that will be a separate video from this one because I wanted to separate them out just to explain to people that if you're using these terms, talk to him and ask him to show you what he would like you to call him. Some people understand the Father's name to be Yahweh or Yahuwah or Yahovah. There's different understandings of the 4 pictographs that describe our Maker's name. But understand this, that if you reach out your heart and you ask him to show you what he wants you to call him, and you earnestly are seeking him, he will reveal it to you. That's what I did when I first started my walk almost 12 years ago. I asked the Father. I was calling him God and Lord. I didn't know. I knew that I wanted to get to know him. So one day I was standing in a church and something really amazing happened there. There was this feeling that came over me. And I questioned what I was calling him because I started reading the book that I shared in another video. And they were using these other terms. And I said, is God, is Lord, your name? And it was literally right after I asked that question that he started to reveal to me who he was in his character. And so if you're using these terms, again, this is a journey that we all go on. Everybody is in a different place spiritually. Not everyone arrives at the same understanding at the same time. My husband, he started learning about, what it is to eat clean and why we don't eat certain foods. Whereas for me, every page I turned in this book I was reading, I literally just started applying everything I was learning. And I learned that book and what it was telling me before I ever read the Bible. So don't feel bad or angry or distraught. Just understand that it's okay to say God. A lot of people in the walk that I walk say, oh no, you can't say God. And so they'll be like Gad, and do that kind of stuff. But God is not a bad word. Yes, it describes the negative character of Satan's name, but it also describes one of the tribes. Okay? So we just have to understand what that means and why that term is being used. And Satan wanted people to call upon his name, and he used man to change our scriptures. So we have to recognize that what we don't know, we don't know. And it's okay. Don't feel bad. Don't let people tear you down because you're using these terms that, that they feel is not okay or an abomination or wrong. It's all about the message that we deliver. See, it goes back to being a good messenger. If we are a good messenger, we are going to talk to people in a respectful manner. We're not going to say, don't use this word right here because it's pagan and it's an evil word. If it's all about our character. Are we putting on the coat of Yahweh or the coat of Satan through our character and how we administer a message? Our message is spread by the words that come forth from our mouth, our pay. And we can be an adversary ourselves. That's the negative side of our character. We can spread bad messages. We can gossip. We can tell people, bad things. We can cuss at them. We can do all these negative things. But if we are not going to people in love, which is the second greatest command, you are to love Yahweh with all your heart, and you are to love your neighbor as yourself. On these two hang all the Torah and the prophets. So if you're not speaking to people in a manner that is loving and kind and compassionate, then you are being the adversary to people, and you are stomping them in the ground. And there's no way that you can deliver a positive message to someone of truth if you are punching them in the face with your words. It's all about how we administer a message. So, do you want to be a good messenger, or do you want to be a bad messenger? The choice is up to you. All right, that's what I got for y'all today. I hope people enjoyed this, and if you have any questions, please just come to me. I'm here to help. I'm here to spread good messages and to help people understand the things that Abba Father Yahweh shows me. All right. I love y'all. Shalom and peace be with you. Bye.